Welcome back to TBI Analytics Podcast, where we interview and have conversations with people in the med-legal space that are bringing ideas to the table that we all can learn from. It doesn't matter what level of what status you're at. We all have something to bring to the table that we can learn from. And these golden nuggets are pretty valuable when you're working in that med-legal space because, again, we come from all different angles and we have many different perspectives. And today we have the pleasure of interviewing Gigi Grasska. Welcome, Gigi. She's an attorney here in LA.
Yes, thank you for having me, Amelia. I'm so excited, and I'm a big fan of the podcast.
Well, thank you. I know we recently just met. We were at the Law de Gras conference not too long ago, a month ago, I think now. And you had said it was your first legal conference that you've ever attended.
It was, but it was such a blast. I mean, everybody was so friendly, and just the networking opportunities were invaluable. So it was awesome.
That's so cool. Well, to enter this space and to get that as your first conference, you really are setting the bar for yourself. That's going to be a tough one to beat.
Yeah.
You're going to be comparing all these different conferences. Not that any of them, all the other ones are bad or anything, but that one definitely is off the charts. A lot of fun and a lot of interaction with many experts that are in this field that you can learn from. I mean, almost to the point where it's overwhelming. It's so much information. So good for you for taking that on and, looking into something else to learn from.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah,
so excited.
Wonderful. Well, I wanted to just get into a little bit more of your background. What brings you here? In a sense, where did you come from and what are you doing these days?
Yeah, so I'm born and raised in Los Angeles. I went to Pepperdine for undergrad and law school.
Wow.
So have not left LA, can't get enough of it. And it was actually my second year of law school where I fell in love with personal injury. So I didn't even know what PI was. I associated that with private investigator. Didn't even know about personal injury. And then
But you knew you wanted to be a lawyer?
Or
you just wanted to go to law school?
Actually,
you can finish
yeah.
That. Go ahead, yeah.
I didn't. Funny enough, I never knew I wanted to be a lawyer. I was always a really shy and reserved kid. So I don't think anybody expected that from me because even today, I'm usually the quietest one in the room and lawyers are always outspoken and very bold. But again, I was in a business law class at Pepperdine and my professor pulled me aside and he was like, "You have almost 100% in this class. You're doing amazing at the public speaking. Have you ever considered law school?"
Wow.
And then I realized you don't have to be the loudest person in the room. And I could actually harness my active listening skills and being able to absorb information around me to become a better advocate and a better public speaker who was, really resilient to different things getting thrown at me. And I liked the idea of being able to use my newfound voice and help people that were shy or reserved on their own or needed somebody to speak for them or bring a claim for them. And that's why I decided, okay, I'll give law school a shot. I think I could handle it.
Wow, but you didn't really know about personal injury until your second year in. So what kind of law you just didn't know yet, but you knew you could be an advocate in that space.
Yes, and that's why with personal injury specifically, I love how hands-on it is with our clients. So from inception to settlement, you get to be speaking with your client every day, seeing how their medical treatment's going. And as soon as I kind of understood the business model and how it worked, I immediately fell in love with it and I knew I wanted to pursue it. So
that's so cool. When something's aligned, I get the chills like head to toe, and it just keeps going with you because you found your purpose. And that's so cool that you were able to see that just from even being in that setting to know I belong here and people are going to be able to take advantage of what you bring to the table. And that voice for the injured is one of the best things I think as a lawyer that somebody can do, because that's when it's hard to have a voice when you've been rocked like that, right? So good for you for recognizing that there is some way you can help in that regard. So tell me more. So you discovered personal injury and you thought, okay, I'm going forward.
Yeah, gung-ho on personal injury. I started a legal internship as a law clerk at a small personal injury firm. I'm still there now.
Perfect.
So the growth that I've been able to see, I loved that I went with a small firm because not only did I gain a great mentor, but now I'm 2.5, almost 3 years in, and I'm running a team of 10. I have a lot of cases on my desk, and I feel like I've just gotten such great hands-on experience. And I was kind of thrown in the deep end because my mentor trusted me to do so. And
let's highlight that mentor.
Yeah.
Who is it?
So it's Esther Estrada.
Go Esther.
At Estrada Law Group. Yeah, and she's crushing it. We're doing great things and just scaling really quickly. And I think the reason we've been able to scale and keep building our client base is because we love what we do and we care for our clients, which is so rare in the personal injury field. I mean, there are great lawyers out there, but the reputation is that there are these big chainmail law firms, and we love giving our clients individualized attention and just having empathy for their cases, like you're saying, and what your whole vocation is about too with TBI analytics.
Yes, absolutely. And that's what I saw as something that I can do that was beyond myself, that I could actually be a big part of that outcome for these people, and to care in a way that I know not everybody has that in them. And so when you can find that and help these people, it's just the most rewarding thing to know you're helping people in the worst times of their lives. And if you can be that calm in the storm, by all means, that is an amazing role that you're taking on. And that's awesome that you were able to find somebody like Esther to bring you under her wing and give you that confidence to fly. And it looks like you're doing that. Sounds like it.
Yeah.
And it's really exciting to know that you found a purpose. And then I'm a big believer in that what's meant to be will be. And when you settle into that, then the things just start coming at you, and you ride it,
Totally.
right?
Yes.
You ride with it. Okay, so I know we touched on you being, you found the personal injury world, and that's what you knew as your purpose. I take it that what makes you happy at being an attorney is that in itself, is that you are helping these people in the worst times.
It really is. And one thing that a lot of people don't know about personal injury, a lot of our clients that come to us, they don't have health insurance or they can't afford medical care. So one of the amazing things about our providers that treat on liens is we get to help connect our clients to treatment for their injuries. And, like you do as well, we talk to our clients every day, and it's so upsetting to hear these clients that come to us and they're really injured and they're crying to me saying they can't wake up in the mornings without severe pain or they can't work anymore. And then all of a sudden, months later, after they're in their course of treatment, if they call me and say, I just had my 3rd injection and I feel great again and I can start exercising and all those things. I mean, the most important thing to us is our client's well-being. Yes, there's a case going on, but they're real people with real injuries. It's their case, and the cherry on top is that we can get them a settlement as well to provide them with extra compensation for their pain and suffering.
Because to navigate that world on your own, it's a mountain. There's no way. And I don't know how anybody can do it without a lawyer to lead that for them, to guide them in that regard. And what's great about having the medical community in the personal injury setting is most of these providers also are doing it because they care about that patient. It's not just for insurance. It's not just, they're going to get paid because they're seeing them, they're treating them. They actually do care, and you can see the difference. And in fact, I even tell people sometimes it's a phenomenon, but if you get injured, it's almost, I even say it's kind of interesting that you almost want to get injured by a claim in order to get really good medical treatment, because to go within our insurance companies, you're not always going to be taken care of the same way. And there are other things that people are doing outside of your normal insurance plans, your standard of care, that are able to treat these people in a much more significant way than if they did go through their insurance companies. So in my years of experience working with other attorneys and talking about their clients and what their treatments are, I've heard this a lot, is that they are thankful for these providers that do work against a lien and are able to do that. So wonderful that you can see that as well.
Yeah, and same to you. I mean, I've had, clients that are seeking MRIs for brains, and they all say, oh, well, because I have traumatic brain injury, I really want to treat through my health insurance because it is more serious. But then it's impossible for them to get appointments with their normal doctors or PCPs, and we're sitting on these files and cases and people's injuries for months at a time because they can't get an appointment. Whereas I see with a lot of the private medical providers, you can get seen right away and know that you're being taken care of. Absolutely.
So you went from this little law school student to now you're running the care, if you will, the treatment plans for these patients or these clients of yours, and you're running a team of 10 people. That's pretty impressive in 2.5 years doing that. So I'd say you're an inspiration to many. And I know you're thinking, no, I'm just this little newbie in this space. But what people don't realize is how hard it can be to jump into a law firm, understand the dynamic. How does this work? What do these people need? Even understanding you're not a medical doctor. You're not, able to identify exactly what's going on, but you can actually guide them into the experts that are doing it. So I would say your maturity level has just skyrocketed with what you're doing and taking on. That's huge.
Well, thank you. I also look up to people like you. I mean, just talking today when we met and you told me your story about how you took your experience level from 0 to 100 and just the pure dedication that you had for these injured patients with TBIs. And you saw the lack of this new type of imaging where people could actually get help on their cases of concrete evidence. And the fact that you saw that gap and you felt such a purpose from it and you made it happen. I mean, you know so much about MRI imaging and all of the legal aspects with it too. So I think you're quite an inspiration as well.
Thank you. So if you could give advice to people that are out there, case managers or people that are helping case managers grow and learn, what is it that you guys do that is helping? What would you say is your best? How do I put this? I guess what I'm asking is, what is that structure? How is that dynamic? Do you guys meet on a weekly? Do you meet on a daily? Do you go over the cases? Do you sit there and understand your clients better?
Yes, so we do. I actually just started, we're having a weekly pre-lit meeting with our team because our caseload is scaling now, and we just want to make sure that we cover every new case that comes into the office together and go through the file completely so nothing gets lost in the cracks during intake, because intake can definitely be an Achilles heel of law firms. So we want to make sure that we start the case off properly, because how a client starts off treatment and we open these claims, it can set the file up for either success or disaster later on in litigation if the file does have to go to lit. So we want to make sure that we don't have any cracks in our cases, and communication is key between the attorneys, case managers, and even CMAs, the assistants. So we always have an open door. We're always trying to learn. And when we do network with our providers and hear about different treatment that's happening, or even the types of reports that we like, we make sure that we're all involved in the process. And we try to have a lot of lunch and learns where doctors can come into our office and they explain different types of treatment or the new procedures that they're offering. So it's a team effort, and everybody feels like they're part of the success and part of the client stories.
Yeah, there's not one person that does more than another. It's a team effort, and that's so vital to the outcome of these clients' cases. It just is. When you have that kind of a in-house family type of environment where people trust one another and they're not worried about it slipping through the cracks or gap in treatments or what have you, that is essential for the outcome of these cases. And it sounds like you guys are learning this. You're scaling these all the cases so that you can have that hands-on one-on-one, and it's not becoming a mill type of place.
Exactly. We always want to be accessible to our clients, and our clients have my phone number. They can text me anytime. I call them regularly because I care about them. Yes. Our cases are almost like our babies. Like, I want to know exactly how the client is feeling and how they want to continue proceeding with their case, because we don't want to make any assumptions. So it's our clients' decisions, their case, their bodies. We want to make sure that they feel welcome to speak to us freely.
And a lot of times that's the perception that people get is, it's a lawyer at the other end. I'm not going to be able to get to that lawyer. It's the case manager or somebody else before I even talk to a lawyer. And that can make a client feel just not special, if you will. They don't care about me. It's just another number. It's just another dollar in their pocket. So when you can put your cell number out there, a lot of people are like, oh my gosh, what the heck? I would never do that. But you'll find that you really aren't called that much. In fact, these people don't want to call because they don't want to complain. They don't want to do that. It's just a matter of, maybe getting some answers, that they just need some reassurance that something's happening, or, just calming them. And I go into law firms all the time with presentations and helping these case managers understand that you being that point guard or that point of reference, that person that they can trust is the initial, feeling that they've got to have. And if they don't feel like they are special in your eyes, then you may not have them anymore. And, and it's sad that they're not going to get that treatment that they deserve. And so with that, I'm really excited to know that people are getting taken care of at your firm over there. That's amazing. Estrada Law, you're
Yes.
doing it right. I love this. We can all learn. And so with other people out there, there are so many law firms, so many. And so where we start, where we, are constantly refining what you're doing in those firms is essential to what you're doing, for sure. So let's see, what else do we want to know about you? I know that what makes you happy about being an attorney, well, I think you just told me. It's just that one-on-one personal aspect and knowing that you made a difference in somebody's life in a way that they couldn't have done without you and your team, right?
Exactly. Yeah, it's just putting the client first always, and then being able to call them and let them know, wow, we received the results that you were hoping for. I've almost become addicted to receiving settlements or getting a good outcome on a case because it's such a good feeling.
Yeah,
and
it's
I
that
love
next
making
high.
them happy. Yeah, exactly. It's almost like an adrenaline rush.
It's an adrenaline,
but
yes.
it keeps you going, and I just want to keep, getting
who's
good results
the next
for the
one
clients.
I can help? Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Wonderful.
Exactly.
That's so exciting. Well, I'm excited to share more of how we're going to help your firm with the TBI cases, and give us a little bit of an idea of what it's like for you when you have a TBI client potentially coming in. Is it a complicated road for you? Is it, what's that like when you're having these clients come in with TBI symptoms?
Yeah, so we started implicating a checklist of symptoms. So when we do initial sets of pain levels, we also want to go over potential TBI symptoms with a client. So things like dizziness, headaches, confusion, even sometimes loss of equilibrium, all the typical things you would see with a TBI, because TBIs are, they get a bad rep, I think, in the legal industry. And a lot of attorneys that I have spoken with, they all say, oh no, unless it was very severe, it's not worth treating because there's not a lot you can do for it. But, when it really does affect the everyday life of our client, you can't just turn a blind eye to it. So actually the first case that I ever mediated, I was kind of just thrown in. Treatment had already finished, and it was a mild traumatic brain injury case. It was really interesting to see because the client had all the symptoms, ringing in her ear, headaches, memory loss, confusion, and she actually worked at a large music company, and it was her job to curate playlists. So yeah, the rain in her ears, she ended up getting laid off, and we took the case to mediation. She didn't want to litigate, so we knew we were going to try and settle the claim. But she, saw a neurologist. The neurologist recommended an EEG, came back normal. MRI of the brain showed no abnormalities. And then even the neurocognitive testing, it just wasn't enough to make the claim that strong. So our biggest pitfall and what kept being used against us in the negotiations was, well, why is your client claiming this when the evidence isn't showing anything?
Exactly.
So that's why companies like yours are so inspiring for us, because if you can have that clinical diagnosis and see all of the complaints from our clients and how it's affecting their daily life, but then have the hard evidence, if that is possible now in these more detailed imaging, I wonder what would have happened in her case. And we did get a favorable settlement. She walked away happy, but I think it would have been a game changer.
It is a game changer. And when I recognized that, it was exactly what I knew was needed in that space. Just paying attention to the pain that people go through, whether it's the attorney helping the client or that client, to show what is going on in that brain of theirs. It's such an invisible injury. I know it gets that cliche, but it's a cliche for a reason. And that's what I had that compassion for, is knowing that there are so many people in this world that are walking around with a mild TBI, but are being told that they're normal. And so even that, for an emotional standpoint, is going to send them down a spiral of depression, or even worse, it could even lead to suicide, because it does affect the brain in a way that it's affecting them on a daily. When you have a broken leg or a broken arm or anything else, even a back issue, sure, it's going to affect you, maybe even daily, but it's not going to control your whole day. When it's the brain, it's affecting everything. And so sleep, that's one of the biggest things that people aren't getting when they have a TBI, is the sleep. And so how is somebody going to recover and heal if they're not sleeping? So that's the other thing, is we got to get these people to sleep again. But the biggest thing is, yes, clinically we can show it, but when you have that hardcore evidence on a brain MRI that actually shows the map of the brain and where the axonal injury is happening, because you can't get that on a standard brain MRI. It's not measuring that part of the brain. So to give that diagnosis to somebody, or that non-diagnosis, it's a pivotal thing for them, and it's their whole case. It can be. Luckily, I'm aware of providers out there that have a number of different functional capacity tests that we can help prove it without, or support it without having a advanced imaging like DTI. But when you have it, it's just more, evidence to support. And the more evidence, the more data, the more measurements we have, the better. So you're absolutely right. And I love that you're coming from that same space, if you will, that I came from, where your heart goes out to these people, because you know that they are injured. You know they are. You wouldn't be where you're at, with helping them advocate if you didn't believe them. And so yes, great example of how you could have, and with science and technology, thank God we're living in these days where we do have this now evidence, and we do have this to support these people. So the sky's the limit now. We can actually go after these, treatments a lot better now, and the evidence is there. So wonderful. What is the hardest part about being an attorney, do you think? Is there something that is pretty hard?
Good question.
I know.
So I think for me personally, it's probably finding work-life balance, because I'm so competitive by nature, and I think most attorneys are, because if you weren't, you wouldn't get through law school.
Yes.
But like I said, I care for each one of my clients in our cases so deeply that I constantly want to work, and there's always more to be done.
Yes.
And I try so hard to prove myself and I want to be the most prepared person in the room. But I think part of maturing as an attorney also is realizing that if you don't take rest days or times away from work, you can't recharge in a way where you can then become the most productive and efficient version of yourself, because burnout is real. And I saw it during bar prep, and, I feel like, oh, I'm invincible. I'm a first year. I have so much energy. But I'm realizing, no, I can't keep saying no to plans every weekend. I just want to be on my laptop all the time because I want to be the most prepared person. And you still can be, but you have to find balance.
Yes.
That's what I'm trying to learn.
Wow. That is a really well way to say it, because I think a lot of attorneys struggle with that. I myself, not an attorney, but business owner, entrepreneur, there's always something that can be done. There's always work to do. But I find that same work-life balance very, very tough as far as putting a label on it. It's tough, no matter how you look at it. Where I've found some kind of escape and help in that is to meditate and to take on the fun that we're supposed to have in this world, right? You're supposed to lift those vibrations so that you can help somebody even better and come from that higher place of consciousness so that you can be that person for them. So true. And it's so vital, so important to go out and dance, go dancing one night or what have you.
For me, it's yoga. Every day after work, I have to go because it clears your mind, and you'll realize your perspective on cases might change after. You have to take a step away sometime.
Wow, you just nailed it. That is a special place in my heart is yoga. That's definitely a main practice for me, because it centers your brain. It gets your heart and your brain just aligned. You have downloads in the middle of a yoga session you're not even looking for. It's like, oh, okay. Yeah. It's because we've opened that space now to allow stuff in. But when you're overwhelmed and you've got too much coming in, you don't have that pause so that your brain can go, okay, wait a minute. Oh, there's a good thought. Because if you don't have that space, you can't get that download. So it's a really good art form of practice. So good for you for finding that at such a young age too. I didn't really discover yoga until almost 40. So it was like, I wish I knew more about it then. But good for you. It's really an awesome thing to do for sure. So yes, after work, definitely get that done.
Yeah.
Yes. So what about your hardest case? Do you have a case that was your hardest one to work on yet?
Yes, definitely a lot of tough ones. I still think that truly that the hardest case would have been that first mild TBI mediation. It went on for a really long time, but I just didn't at the time know how to dispute the fact of not having the imaging there. And, our client also, she contradicted herself as well. So her very first ER visit, she said she never lost any consciousness and that, she didn't hit her head against, the vehicle or anything, which is interesting as well, because you can sustain mild TBI even when you don't hit your head, even if you just have severe whiplash and your head moves forcefully. So yes. But just the fact that she was contradicting herself, because later on she did discuss with the neurologist that she thought she might have blacked out for a few seconds. But one thing that I've also noticed with our clients is sometimes our clients are so shaken up after an accident that if they're taken via ambulance or whatever it is to the hospital, they haven't fully processed what's gone on yet. They might not be feeling all of their injuries yet, or if they do have a TBI, they're not in a clear headspace. So it's very frustrating. Makes perfect sense. Yeah, when the client told me, she's like, well, I just was so flustered. Yes. They were asking me all these questions. And then when I thought about it more, I realized I do think I lost consciousness. And it's just really tough when the other side's not humanizing the experience the same way. Yes. And we have to try and craft a legal argument to help our client's claim. Yes.
Even somebody without a TBI can get lost in a stressful moment. And, that's not always the indicator for how they are. It's just, that moment. And if we're going to put everything on that, then yes, it makes it very difficult. But you are so right. You don't have to hit your head to have a TBI. You don't have to lose consciousness to have one. And if you're getting an MRI done right away, which many don't, it's not going to really show right then and there. That's why we want to wait a few months at least for things to rewire, whatever happens, to see what the symptoms are a little bit later on anyway, about 3 months after date of loss, to see, are these still symptoms that this person's experiencing? And if there are, then we now know we have measures that we can take to identify that they actually, probably do have one. So I would absolutely agree that that's a challenge, and probably the hardest thing for attorneys to recognize, that if you don't know that this imaging is out there, then it makes it very hard to get these people the treatment that they deserve, for sure. So can you describe what your best legal case was? Do you have one at the top of your head that you can?
Yeah, and I would say the definition of best,
yes,
it's almost
it's
a
relative.
difficult question. Yeah, because the high value cases in PI, at the same time, it means you have a really injured client.
Yeah.
So it's kind of tough
to even say that.
Yeah.
Yes.
But there is one case, and she was such a sweet client. I got really close to her and her dad. She was in an automobile collision case. She got T-boned and pushed into a retaining wall. But she sustained severe injuries. So she had a skull fracture to the back of her head. She had severe traumatic brain injury. She was taken from the scene of the collision in the ambulance to the hospital. But liability was disputed on this one too, because it was a red light T-bone, and the other side was trying to say that their insured had the green. We ended up overturning liability, which was great. We got full policy limits for our client on, the other insurance company and her own. But it was just so sad, because when I would speak with her, you could tell she would forget words during her sentences, and she was showing all of the symptoms of TBI. And her dad as well, who was saying, my daughter is not really the same as she used to be. She's groggy all day long, or her mood swings are different. And one thing that I thought was really interesting about this case, even though it was probably one of the higher settlements I've received, was when she went to the hospital, they did a CT scan on her, and the CT scan showed no hemorrhaging. And then even when she ended up doing the MRI of the brain, it showed no abnormalities. And she treated all through her health insurance. She wanted to go that route. But I just found it so interesting that even in a case with a very severe TBI and skull fracture, that you can even have that type of imaging with all the complaints of it, and you don't see any abnormalities.
Wow. That is interesting. Wow. Yeah, that's a tough one. But yet she was able to get a good settlement anyway.
She was, thankfully.
Yeah, thankfully we had that testimony of dad and other, people identifying that, yes, she's not the same person.
Yeah.
And that's crucial in these cases where you don't have, when hers, she did have the evidence to show, but when an expert's saying there is no abnormality, then what are you going to do? But that's where you do need to rely on lay witnesses and other people that can help tell the story of the person before they were hurt and after. So that's where I know neuropsychology is amazing for that, as far as peeling the onion layers back, because they do have objective evaluations out there that can help to support that diagnosis when you don't have even the brain MRI to show it. But that's to me, that's a gem in this TBI world, is having that neuropsychologist being able to really pinpoint that, no, this person is different, and they deserve this treatment and whatever outcome you're trying to get for them. So yes, wonderful that you had that experience, though, to understand that level of what these people are going through, and you can see it firsthand. Yes, that's impressive. So can you define what principles or values that you appreciate in a workplace environment?
Yeah, so I would say first and foremost, I really appreciate integrity. especially in personal injury, we get pinpointed to be such, I don't know, ambulance chasers,
Yes.
or that we don't have good morals. And just knowing that you can work with a team or other individuals in the space who are honest, have empathy for our clients, and just that you can really trust them, because not every case is going to be a perfect case. You know, there might be things working against you. And I would rather spearhead those straight on and be fully open about it. Like, if one of your clients is an eggshell plaintiff, I've seen some attorneys want to hide that information.
Right.
Whereas you can actually use it to your advantage, and full disclosure will get you so much farther, at least from what I've seen with insurance adjusters or opposing, whatever it is, as long as you're also protecting your client's case at the same time. But that's something that's really valuable to me. And then I guess I would also say people who are motivated and self-driven, because I think that that's something that's hard to find in people, but you have to want to work for yourself and you have to be motivated. I don't like micromanaging people, and I don't want to have to be, are you doing this? You should just be doing it because you love what you do and you want to get good results. So
It's just in you. It's your makeup. You know? Yeah. You don't have to train for it. It's there.
Yeah, you kind of either have it or you don't.
Yes.
And then lastly would be resilience for me, or being able to adapt to different situations, because so much is changing in the industry right now, like how we have AI coming into play, like you guys are using as well, or even all these self-driving cars. But things are constantly changing, and if you can't adapt with the times, or things that are thrown in you just be at you being a lawyer, then you're gonna get lost and not be able to keep up. So
it's not a one way or the highway. It is, let's be open to all kinds of different ways we can go about this. What are the options that we can provide for our clients, and really take in all aspects of where they're coming from, and knowing that environment at home, what are they going through every day? Yes, to be able to tone in and tap into that absolutely is good. It's an ever-changing world we live in, but especially in a legal environment where, like you said, technology is always changing. We've got to adapt, and if we don't, it could be crucial to your client not getting the right treatment or outcome. Yeah, that's a really good way of putting it. Wow. And then what would you tell your law school student self if you were to go back and say, all right, Gigi, you're in law school, but this is what I know now. What advice would you give your younger self going through law school?
As cheesy as it sounds, I would say to enjoy it, because the challenge is worth it. It will change you in ways that you never expected, and you will grow so much. Everyone I know has told me the way that I think has shifted drastically, but in a great way. And take the time to really get to know the people you're going to school with, because law school provides a great opportunity. It almost drama bonds you together.
Yes.
And the people you're going to school with now will end up being your network when you go out into the work fields. And then lastly, and we kind of touched on this a little bit earlier about what brought me into law school, but you don't always have to be the loudest person in the room, and don't let what other people are doing interfere with your own confidence, because you can study how you want to study, and if you don't like getting cold called, it's okay. You can still excel and do everything your way, the way you're used to. So just have confidence in yourself.
That's awesome. I love the way you put that, because we can get too caught up in comparing ourselves to others and what others are doing, and having like an inspiration or aspiration to be like that. But you individually can bring another perspective to the table and do it a different way and be even possibly better than that person. It's funny how we will tell ourselves things that maybe not be true, So that was a really good way to put it. To not get caught up and lost in that, especially in the days of social media where we are comparing to so many out there and we're seeing what others are doing, and I can never be like that. But no, you can. And there's different ways of getting there. It doesn't not everybody follows that one way and that same path. Exactly. That's wonderful. And how do you visualize yourself in 3 years from now? Where do you see yourself?
In 3 years from now.
3 years. Boy, in 3 years, you went from law school to running 10 people in a law firm. I see you being right in that trial in front of a jury.
That is one thing that I would like to try and do, because right now I'm kind of specializing in pre-litigation. So getting these cases settled quickly for our clients without having to file a lawsuit, because so many people don't want to have to go through the time restrictions and the expenses of trial. But I would like to get some more litigation experience. And even if it is pro bono work, I would love to volunteer as well and maybe, get trial experience that way. But definitely want to still be in personal injury. And I just hope to really establish a name for myself and establish credibility within the field, so much so that I just continue to have clients come and trust me or refer me out.
Awesome. I mean, that's absolutely impressive what you are doing already. And I have no doubt that you are going to be in front of a jury one day soon. You are articulate, you can relate, you humanize a situation. That's what these people need when they're going to litigation. That's where the voice really is helpful for them. And to speak that level, it's awesome. And not everybody can, not everybody wants to. So even having that desire is awesome. So you will be there. I know we're going to be doing another podcast when you're winning all these trials. And you'll be like, yes, I knew her when.
Love it.
I know it. And how can people contact you if you want to get a hold of you to work with you?
You can always go on my website. It's lawyergigi.com.
Oh, I didn't know we had a separate website. That's awesome.
Yeah, just, because I said I give out my personal number too for people. Yeah. I'm always available. And I'm on social media too, Instagram, TikTok. Anyone who DMs me or texts me, calls me, I really try to be available 24/7. And feel free to reach out whenever. You
really have that go-getter mentality.
I'm trying.
I love it. I mean, most people would just get locked into that role at the firm and that's it. But you're going outside, doing your own thing, branding yourself for the future. For now, it doesn't matter. There's, nobody telling you what to do. It's just all your own personal drive. It's really inspiring. So good job.
Thank you. Same to you. This is incredible. So
wonderful. And this is your first podcast, right? I get the privilege of having you as your first podcast. It's so great. What an honor.
Thank you so much for having me.
Absolutely.
It's been a pleasure.
Yes, and we'll continue. I would love to follow up and do another one with you. That sounds great.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Amelia.
You're welcome. Thank you for being here.